A disclaimer is that the content in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or tax advice. I am not a financial advisor.
In 2010, I actually filed for bankruptcy. I end up putting like a 10K into that account, buying here, buying there. The stock started going down and I went like, okay, I'm gonna buy more when the stock goes down. So I'm doing good, not knowing the fundamentals of those companies, not knowing that they were just, it was like a falling knife that I was trying to catch. I ended up putting like 10K into that account. And last year, I think that I sold it just to harvest the losses for like $900, I think. So I ended up losing like 9K into that. I do not want anything to do with any fund that it goes above 15% or so. I do not want to touch it with like a 10-foot pole kind of thing. So that's how I came from Cuba, a little boy that never had nothing to do with investing, to now thankfully have like a six-figure portfolio that I'm super proud of.
This content is sponsored by Neos Investments, which is for educational and informational purposes only and not financial advice.
Brought to you by the ETF Academy. Enjoy.
Investors, welcome a very special guest. We have Danny from Blossom. Now, if you guys want to see both of our portfolios, you guys can for free on Blossom, which will be in the link in the description of this video, as well as in the pinned comment section to see our portfolios, our buys, and so much more. Now, Danny is a hybrid investor on Blossom who has a very unique story that he's going to share with all of you guys. And Danny's top ETFs in his portfolio are VOO, QQQI, VGT, SCHD, and BTCI. And with that, I want to welcome Danny to the channel.
Hey, Marcus, thank you for having me, man. Like, I just want to, be thankful for the opportunity that you are giving us to come and share our stories in your channel. And just keep up the work that you're doing. Like, you are making a big difference out there and inspiring a lot of investors. Your story, you are a young investor who has like a big portfolio, and it just kind of tells you that if you get your head into the game early, the sky is the limit. So thank you for having me. Super excited for this interview. So yeah.
I want to get into your story though. So can you walk me through your investing journey and what got you invested in the first place?
Oh man, this is a crazy thing, Marco. And even today I look back and I go like, man, I think that I don't have any business to do with investing. So anyhow, I grew up in Cuba. And I lived in Cuba until I was 21 years old. Back then, now things are a little bit more developed, but back then there was no credit cards, there was no debit card, no loans from the bank. So I had no clue what investing was or, money things. I remember my parents, they were teachers and they were working for the educational system down there in Cuba, and they would get paid once a month by the government, and it was cash. There was no, again, transfer funds. It was just cash for the month, and they will have to make it last for the whole month. So again, for me and my sister, there was no talks about money or how do we make it last. Now I look back, and again, I don't know how they did make it last for the month. And my sister and I always had food on the table and stuff like that. So just again, I grew up for 21 years not knowing anything about money or investing and nothing like that. In 2005, I moved to Canada. And I remember when I got there, I went like, oh my God, this is what a first world country lifestyle looks like. And I remember Marcus going to the bank to open that first bank account. And I sat there and they were explaining to me, do you want a credit card? Do you want a debit card? And I was looking and it's like, can you explain what those things are? And I remember the lady telling me, okay, think about it this way. Debit is the money that you have. Credit is the one that we can lend you, but you don't have it. It's not yours. It's like, all right, a little bit confusing, but I think that I get it. So, I just started there, I remember I started working for a temporary agency, kind of giving you this kind of, they call you today, this is what we have for tomorrow. And I just went out there and got it. No idea what investing was at that point either. And I remember, Marcos, this is 15 years ago, one of the best advice that I ever got that I still look back today, a guy named Andy. I remember that he talked to me. We were having a drink, and he was telling me, Danny, there is a lot of things that coming from Cuba you have never experienced it, and you are going to experience it now. One of them is money, your relationship with money. The other thing is like, think about your life from now on, kind of like a pyramid that you have to build a block at a time. So if you get to the top so quick, there's not like the step below that you're going to fall to. You're going to go all the way to the bottom. Kind of, because I remember, Marcos, I was working for in this temporary agency, picking up the trash, the recycling, like in the garbage truck. I will go to these factories that we will have to do acid washes to the machines and stuff like that. And I remember thinking at that time, that advice that Andy was giving me, man, I would like to have that job that he thinks that I need to work for to get there. So that's kind of my beginning, you know, the beginning that I had when I moved to Canada. And the first time that I came up with like an opportunity to invest, it was just a few months later, I got my first full-time job. And I remember the guy from HR came to me and said, hey, Danny, will you want to be part of the RRSP program? Kind of the similar to the 401k here in the US. In Canada is the RRSPs. And I said, no, man, like I'm good. There, you know, I just want to save money. You know, I was young, again, 21, 22 years old, and I just wanted to make money, contribute to the house. I have my dad and my sister back home in Cuba that I wanted to help them out as well. So to have a portion of my portfolio going into something that I'm going to use when I'm 60, that didn't make sense to me at all. And Marcos, I remember I kind of became friends with that guy. And I remember telling him, you know what? I just got here to this country. I can tell you that I'm going to buy a house one day that's going to appreciate in value. I'm going to sell it for a lot of money. And all the money that I'm going to be saving in the bank, that's my retirement right there. Like, this is my kind of, this is how I'm going to make it in life. Obviously, I had no clue what I was talking about at the time. So I just let that opportunity pass. Starting that job later on, I got my trucking license and started driving a truck for a living. Later, a little bit later, I bought my first truck, and I was kind of self-contracting to a company. So I was seeing decent money coming in. And again, going to the malls and doing all this shopping, things got to me. And before I knew it, I was with loans, car loans, credit card loan that I couldn't pay every month. And I thought that I was making a lot of money, but a lot of it was going out, right? Things that I look back and it's like a lot of those things were not making me happy at the time. So in 2010, I actually filed for bankruptcy, and I actually got discharged. They discharged me. I met my wife now at the end of 2009. And this is kind of, hey, we're going into a relationship talking about financials, and I'm filing for bankruptcy. My wife on the other spectrum, she had been contributed to her RRSP her whole life. She had a condo. She had a good financial kind of mentality. But yeah, we got in together in this, and sometimes we look back and it's like, oh my God, I cannot believe that we went into like a relationship living together with the mess that I created. And that's it. In 2011, we bought our first house. We bought a house together, and start contributing to that. And the very first time that I kind of went into investing, it was about 2016. 2017, a friend of mine called me and he said, hey, man, you're not going to believe what I just found on the internet, on YouTube. And there is this guy in the US that he has a show that people call in about money problems, and he just blows a gasket on them and goes bananas. And I went like, okay, let me go. And it's like, when I went and looked, it was Dave Ramsey. So the Dave Ramsey show. So again, I just went for the fun of it to see his reactions and all this stuff. And it was like, man, a lot of people are in the same boat that I was, with a lot of debt and consumer debt and this and that. And a couple of days later, my buddy called me and he's like, hey, I'm actually started investing with the RRSPs in my company, and I'm getting the match and all that. And I went, well, you know what? I think that I'm going to give this a chance. All this time, Marcus, the conversation about investing never came up in our household. Like, even when my wife was doing it in her company, we would just never talk about it. So yeah, we went to the bank. I remember we went to TD Bank. That's the bank that I was banking back in Canada. And we sat down with the lady, and he's like, hey, I want to invest. because I was self-employed, I opened kind of like a solo 401k here. And I remember the lady say, okay, yeah, we have mutual funds that we can invest you in, and you can redirect the money from your paycheck, or, every 2 weeks whenever you get paid. But we need to do a quiz first, and just to see your investor profile. And I remember that she went, I can see that was many years ago, but I can see the lady in front of me saying, what is your risk tolerance? Low, medium, or high? I went, well, I would like whatever I invest, at least that portion to stay, that I don't want to risk it. And whatever I make on top of that is gravy. And it's like, okay. And he's like, okay, what else? And he's like, no, I'm good. That's all that I need to hear from you. This is the charts. And then Marcus, she started showing me charts of this, of that. And I went like, all right, I didn't understand half of it, but at least I was invested. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I got the ball rolling. And I just did it for a few years. And I can look into that account later on. And it's like, okay, it's growing a bit, but the mentality of investing still didn't click yet. I was just doing something that a lot of people were doing, and the very minimum, to be honest with you. I think that I was putting $50 every 2 weeks or something like that. Then went to $100. Just after COVID, in 2021, we moved to the US. So we moved to Florida, sold our house there. After COVID, the housing market in Canada, I was living outside Toronto, and it just skyrocketed. So I was 38 at the time, and that was whenever we sold our house and we started looking here in Florida, we had an opportunity to, if we play our cards right, to be mortgage free and pay cash for a house, never had a mortgage again. So we did. We moved to Tampa, we bought our house, we paid cash for it, and we were fortunate not have a mortgage at 38 years old. My wife she worked for an American company, and then she just got transferred to the US. So then everything went into a 401k, and then again, they put her into a target date fund that I didn't know nothing about. She just got rolled into the program, contributing at least the match. Things were good. Like about 2022, a friend of mine, one of my good friends, he comes to visit me in Tampa, and he pulls out his phone, and he's like, hey man, look at what I'm doing. I'm investing. And he pulls Marco his Robinhood account. And he's like, I'm buying this stock. And a friend of a friend told me that this is what I need to do. When I see it at a certain price, I buy it. And 2 or 3 days later, when at least I'm making 50 cents, I'm selling. And I went like, really? But let me see. Then he goes into the history of his account. And then he's showing me what he's making, $80 here, 120 there. And I went like, I think that I got it. This is what I'm going to do with my life. This is investing one-on-one. So what do you think that happened? As soon as he left, I went and I opened a brokerage account, not knowing that was a brokerage account at the time. I just kind of researched, where do I invest? And he kind of showed me, this is the name of the account. Start putting your money in there. So I went, Marco, and I went the same. And that stock was Carnival, the cruise ship company. And I remember, like if it was today, he was telling me, when you see around $21, you buy, and as soon as it goes $21.50 or above, you sell, and then do it again 2-3 days later. So I remember looking at my wife, and it's like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to be an investor. I don't need to go to school. I don't need to get a decent job. This is what I'm going to do. Long story short, fast forward a few months, maybe a year later, I end up putting like a 10K into that account, buying here, buying there. The stock started going down, and I went like, okay, I'm going to buy more when the stock goes down. So I'm doing good, not knowing the fundamentals of those companies, not knowing that it was like a falling knife that I was trying to catch. I end up putting like 10K into that account. And last year, I think that I sold it just to harvest the losses for like $900, I think. So I ended up losing like 9K into that. So I sold my account on the red all the time. I went like, okay, this is no investing, man. Like, I don't want to do it now. It's like, I don't want to do anything with investing at all. So I left it alone, kept doing what I was doing. The house that I bought, it was kind of original from the same owner that had it since 2001. And I was doing a lot of renovations to that house. So that was kind of my everyday job, going and doing the renovations at home. And I remember one day, Marco, I came across, I can't remember if it was a video or something, and it's like, man, there has to be a better way to invest. There has to be a way, not what I was doing. And I remember my friend telling me about Dave Ramsey, so I went like, let me go and look at Dave Ramsey now to the content of giving advice on investing. So I went to start looking, but the more that I look, it's like his kind of channel or what he does doesn't relate to me, because I don't have debt. I don't need to manage my kind of what I buy, how I spend my money and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, let me start looking around. And I remember that I came across the channel of the Money Guys. These two guys from Nashville, I believe, that the advice that they were giving were where I was. Like, again, now I had my spending like under control. We knew how we needed to spend the money, how to save, how to do all that stuff. And they were kind of giving advices on how to do that. And that's the first time that I heard about a Roth account, like a Roth IRA. And everybody, they were talking about the Roth IRA all the time. And it's like, okay, I'm going to open my Roth IRA. And I believe that in 2023, I opened my Roth IRA, my wife Roth IRA, and we maxed it out. So at that point, it's like, okay, what do I invest in? And I remember searching what do I invest, investment for beginners and stuff like that. And I came across the 3-fund portfolio, the S&P 500 or a total market index, some international and some bonds. So what do you think that I did? I did that. Now, whenever I went into that investing, then I went to different channels, and a lot of people will talk about the same thing, right? Now, these are more stable ETF that is actually, you can look at the charts and you can see where the investment have gone. So that's the first thing that I did in my Roth IRA. I put money into the S&P 500. I put some international and some bonds. And later on, now I'm interested about investing and I want to learn. And I went from, now I had the channels kind of picked up, the ones that I thought that it was good advice. So I will watch, and everybody kind of was in the same kind of boat, saying, hey, you need to have your core ETF, like S&P 500 kind of funds. And then after that, you can have a little bit of money for fun if you want to. And that's what I did. I did that at the beginning. Again, I didn't know what a brokerage account was, even when I had that Robinhood account. And later on, I remember they had an episode where they were talking about the 3-bucket strategy when you get to retirement, to pull money in retirement from like 3 different buckets. And they were like your 401k, deferred kind of accounts, your Roth account, and your brokerage account. So I went like, what is a brokerage account? So I started doing the research. And I believe that it was in 2024 when I opened my first brokerage account. And now it's like, okay, I'm investing now. I'm putting a little bit of money into this. I was maxing out now my Roth IRA every year. In October 2023, I started the job that I have today. So I needed, when I joined the company, I had to wait about 3 months for me to start contributing to the 401k program. That's the kind of the rules that they have. And as soon as I was eligible in January of 24, I just put in kind of a percentage amount that I will max out my 401k for the year. I was lucky to have an S&P 500 fund into my 401k, a Vanguard Admiral shares, I believe it is. And that's it. I started maxing it out, my 401k. I went into my wife 401k and I changed that a target date fund, and she also had an S&P fund. So I put everything into the S&P there. And we have been, thankfully, maxing out our 401ks every year, our Roth IRAs, our HSAs. And now, since last year, since 2024, I've been putting quite a bit of money into my taxable account. So that's how I came from Cuba, a little boy that never had nothing to do with investing, to now thankfully have like a 6-figure portfolio that I'm super proud of, that I have made a lot of mistakes, but that's kind of a story of how I got here.
Now, walk me through like your current portfolio, because all the mistakes you made from the 3-fund portfolio to losing a lot of money on Carnival and whatnot, that you have a pretty high quality, long-term stable portfolio. So how did you come about to have your portfolio with like VOO as a top holding, QQQI, VGT, SCHD, BTCI?
As you can imagine, I'm just going to tell you a whole bunch of mistakes that I made and how I got here. And it was not just because, again, I learned it from the beginning. 60% of my portfolio is in the S&P 500. In my growth kind of accounts, I have 2. I have VGT by Vanguard, and I have SCHD. That makes about 15% of my portfolio. I have another 11% or so in income in those covered call ETF. I hold about 7% of Johnson & Johnson. So my wife works for Johnson & Johnson, and part of the compensation she gets RSU or shares, part of the compensation. So we get those shares kind of given to us in a way. So that's why the only individual stocks that you're going to see there is Johnson & Johnson. And my Bitcoin is now just over 5% through BTCI. That's the exposure that I have to Bitcoin. So how did I come to here? If I go now by accounts, now my 401k, I don't, as you know, not a lot of 401ks, they have a lot of options for investors kind of to choose where you wanted to invest. So if you have an S&P 500, you are golden, in my opinion, my very amateur opinion. You are kind of golden. So that kind of is going to run away of every other fund just because we max them out. And there are three of us. I mean, two of us maxing out their 401k in the S&P and an HSA. So that's why VU is kind of ahead of everybody else. In my Roth IRA, I have SCHD and VGT, the same with my wife Roth IRA. So it's like, I want to make this simple in a way that, hey, we just contribute to a couple of funds and that's it. My mentality with the Roth IRA now is like, hey, I'm 42 now. I'm not going to touch that until I'm 60. So I want that to grow as much as I can. And when I'm getting close to retirement, then I'm into when I'm 60, I can start making adjustment for that. Now, my taxable account, that's the one that I made a lot of back and forth. And I can tell you, Marco, just at the end of last year, I was kind of looking at how, all the investment pieces that I move around 2025, and I went like, oh my God, did I buy and sell that many? Like I jumped from here to there, and it was not always kind of looking the best return. It was just not knowing. Like it's like, hey, what if I go this way? What if I go the other way? So that's how I got to what I am now. In my taxable account, I at some point went the route of holding individual stocks. Like after that, I got to some channels that they were talking about, hey, you have your kind of foundation at a level, and then you can start playing with individual stocks. So guess what I did? I went into some individual stocks, and I remember that I bought 5 of them. A lot of channels were saying, you don't need like 15, 20. You need like a few kind of like a handful of good funds for individual stocks. And that's what I did. So I remember that I bought Microsoft, Google, Visa, Realty Income, and Altria Group. It's like, hey, you need to have kind of these big players like Microsoft and Google, and now Visa is not going to go anywhere anytime soon, but then you want a little bit of yield with Altria, and then you want monthly payments with Realty Income. The issue that I had with that, Marco, is like, I like things very simple. And for me, I remember when I bought those funds, I put like a little bit here, a little bit there, kind of spread it around. And the first time that I wanted to invest in them, I went like, now how much do I put to each of them? And now I have 5 of them that I need to make up my mind. How am I going to invest? That didn't last long. And I went like, no, this is not happening. Sold them all out, went into, I believe that at the time I went into SCHD. And I went into SCHD, and that's where I kind of started investing there. So I kind of made my mistakes along the way, kind of. And I will say that for me, it's one of those things, Marco, that if I tell you, hey, don't run because you're going to fall, like you're telling a kid, and it's like, hey, no, I'm not going to fall. And it's one of those things that when you leave it, kind of the same issue that I had with the bankruptcy back in 2010, I can look back and it's like, I'm not going there. Like, that's not my cup of tea. And then you become a little bit wiser. And now you kind of find, for me at least, I know when I find my rhythm. When I'm not looking at something like looking at my account and it's like, I want to sell that, I know that I found my rhythm kind of thing. So that's how I got to build my portfolio, what is now, and all the kind of different holdings that I had throughout the years, which is like a few years in my taxable account since 24 until now.
Do you think that it's ever too late to, I guess, start investing or even just have like some good financial knowledge and status because you went from bankrupt at one point and then making a lot of mistakes in investing to now having a portfolio of wealth that you're trying to build and build and build and hopefully have that compound for decades to come?
No, man, not at all. And I'm sure that that's one of the regrets that a lot of us that are kind of a little bit older have, not start early. And if anybody, whoever think like it's too late, it's never too late. And I find at some point, again, when I started investing, when I moved here to the US, that I'm playing catch up now. So a lot of younger investors, they don't have to play catch up. They can do it since like an early age. And you are like an example of that. If anybody looks, like I believe that you are in your mid 20s and you have like this 6-figure portfolio that now you can take the gas off the pedal. And it's like, now my portfolio is doing most of the heavy work for me. So to answer your question, people should start as soon as possible. You don't need to have like a certificate from MIT to do this. Like this is a guy that came from a third world country that had no clue about this. And I got passionate to a point now that I go into investing. I look at my accounts all the time. I am looking at videos all the time, and my wife kind of goes like, are you watching investing stuff again? So I love what I do. I love investing. I love learning. And it's such a unique it's kind of your unique kind of road that you need to follow. But again, the earlier that you start, the better, just because timing is on your side. By a 40-year-old to get to a number that you may want to get when you are 25, we may have to invest double what you have to invest today. So I will say just start a little bit. And even if you don't believe in it, go and put $5, $10 and come back and look a few months, hopefully if we are in a run, or a few years later, you're going to see that it works. And that mentality, Marco, that I had back then, that I will buy a house, sell it for whatever, and that's going to be my retirement account. No, well, that's going to help, obviously, whenever you sell your house. But maybe you want to retire early and you're not ready to sell your house. So now what? What do you have to live off? So yeah, I will just say, start early, give it a chance. This is real, that you can build wealth from investing. You just need to kind of avoid a lot of mistakes that we have made. And there is definitely some more that we will make. But now is like I mentioned earlier, when you go to that, when I was in that bankruptcy mind, I just told myself, I'm not going back there. So you learn, you're going to make mistakes. You may fall backwards a bit and then you go again. So yeah, just start. That's plain and simple. Just start.
So tell me why you like hybrid investing for both growth and dividends, and why not just go all into pure growth or just all into pure dividends with the cover calls?
I have all of my cover call ETF in my taxable account. And I can tell you that doing this now intentionally, looking at, hey, I have a plan that that I'm looking towards. I'm telling you that I'm going to retire early and I'm going to live life by my rules in a way of. So why I have the cover calls there is that I don't know when that day is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow. Hopefully not. I have a job that I love. I'm super happy at my current job. So I can see myself retiring from the company that I work for, but you never know. As you know, things may go south super quick. And if I had a crystal ball, I can look, but because I don't, I like to kind of plan things out. So that's my mentality with my cover call ETF. In my taxable account, whenever that early retirement happens, I know that I'm going to get some income there that is going to bridge me until I get to my 60, that I can start accessing my 401k and my Roth IRA. And that's something that I just want to touch now. I remember when I learned about that 3-bucket strategy, taking money from here, that, and it's like, man, at this point, I have dial-in money going into the market every week. I have today, and I have had it for a while now, there is a certain amount of money that I wanted to put in the market every month. So I divide that by week, and money is going in whether the market is up, down, either sideways, I don't really care. But what I wanted to get to is like, okay, now I need to be strategic. And now for me, my mind went beyond investing to how do I be more tax efficient? How am I looking when I started taking money out in retirement, my best plan? To retire early, I need a taxable account. So that's what I want to have my income in there. And then you might ask, okay, well, you're 42 years old. How early do you want to retire? Well, I don't know. Early retirement for me when it's going to be. But let's say that I put all that in the other side of the spectrum and I go in my taxable account all into this growth fund, VGT, SCHD, and something happens tomorrow and I want to retire. We are in a down market. Again, there are a lot of if. And that's the future for us. There is a lot of if whenever we are thinking about the future, just because we don't know what's going to happen. So in my mind, it's like, if I put all that in growth, something happens and I need to start pulling this, living from that portfolio, and we are in a down market, I don't want to sell when it's low. So that's now my mentality. My taxable account is my bridge from early retirement to when I can access my Roth IRA and my 401k. So that's kind of what my mind is about this kind of different accounts and what it makes sense for me.
I also noticed on Blossom that you did have SCHD at one point and also YMAX by YieldMax. So why did those get sold off from your portfolio? And you even had SPYI by Neos, but you got rid of that one as well, and even TSPY. So walk me through like why you got rid of SCHD and YMAX, and then move on to like why you got rid of SPYI and then TSPY.
So SCHD, again, I can see the comments going crazy. My personal opinion, my very amateur opinion when it comes to here to my mindset and mentality, what I'm going to share with you. So when I went into my taxable account that I sold out of those individual stocks and I went into all of SCHD, it was kind of in the last 2 years, SCHD hasn't been doing well. So I didn't see a lot of growth happening there. The only reason why I have SCHD here is because I want that dividend. I was thinking to build a portfolio that is going to get early retirement and live from those dividends. Now, it got to the point that all these cover calls start coming out. And it's like, you see all these videos of high income now. And it's like, okay, a lot of this makes sense, right? That you can have a smaller portfolio, make a little bit more money. So that's what I kind of start looking at getting out of SCHD. The other thing that I want to point out, Mark, and I think that is super important, is like everybody's situation is so different. So before you go out there and start putting a comment about what people should be doing, just think twice that you don't know the situation that these people are in. So just go ahead and pay attention to what you are doing, because that's your money. If you give me your money and it's like, Danny, I'm going to give you 50K invested this way. Okay, I might take it and let's do it your way. But because it is my money, I'm going to go my way. So you see all these videos, Marco, when it comes to this kind of value funds, SCHD, VYM, two kind of main reasons why people should hold that. One is for dividends, right? So, and then you get into, okay, I want to get dividend from there. And you see the people, well, that should be for an older investor, not for a younger investor. But the sooner that you get into them, your yield on cost is going to get better. So it's like, now I'm a little bit confused there. And the other thing is like, you should have a little bit of value in your portfolio. So when the market drops, if you have everything in growth, then your value is going to hold up your portfolio up a bit. For me, I can tell you 100% that I don't really care about my portfolio going into the kind of like whenever we have a down market, I actually pray for that. So for me, it didn't make sense. SCHD is not for me to see a little bit of like a better performance when we are in a down market, like whenever we had in April last year or COVID, right? So it's like the only mentality for me is dividends. Now these cover calls start coming out and I went and it's like, I'm going to sell out of SCHD and I'm going to go into the cover call ETF. And I think the first ones that I bought, it was QQQI and I bought SPYI, like the two Neos fund, the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. And I put a little bit money there and it's like, okay, this makes sense. Again, every time that I see something, Marco, again, this is personal preference. And if I were to do this all over again, I'll still do it this way. If I go into your channel and you're talking about something, and it's like, I may be interested in this. And I go to another channel and they are talking about the same thing. It's like, okay, now this kind of makes sense because I kind of trust the way that these people are advising or whatever content that you're giving out. So the next thing for me is like, let me go to the charts now. Does it make sense? And whenever you see kind of the spreadsheet numbers, it's like, okay, these ones make sense. These ones do not make sense at all. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but that's what I went into the Neos fund to begin with. In the meanwhile, now cover call ETF, super hot. You see all these people making videos about, I'm making $35,000 a month, $15K a month, and it's super attractive for a lot of people. And even when I saw those ULTY and YMAX, I kind of knew. I knew that those were not even close to the Neos fund of the top alpha fund of the ones that I believe that this may be for like a long period of time. But I wanted to put a little bit of money there because I wanted to leave it for myself. I wanted to make sure, because all that you hear is like, even when these YMAX funds are going down, the total return is what matters. And I understand that the total returns matter, but am I in the green with total returns? And you have these people coming in and it's like, hey, my NAV is down 50% on ULTY or YMAX, but my total return is up 30%. I wanted to be part of that and realize it for myself. So I put a little bit of money there. It didn't work. I actually leave it for myself. And it's like, you can see, anybody can go on YouTube now and put up a video of their portfolio on an Excel spreadsheet. And it's like, you can put in there whatever numbers you want. It doesn't mean that that's what you are really doing or where you are really invested. You may not even be invested in these funds and you just want to go there and create content because it's hot, right? So for me, it's like, no, the numbers didn't add up. So what did I do? I sold out of those. And it's like, I know, but again, this was a little bit of money, kind of like a test. Then I went to the point that I wanted to simplify it even more. And it's like, well, I have a lot of S&P exposure through my deferred tax accounts. I don't think that I should have the S&P 500, the SPYI by NEO, SPYI. So it's like, I'm going to go more into the NASDAQ. And that's why eventually I went more into QQQI. I kind of put most of my money there. And I got to the point that now I'm thinking, again, my mind every time that I'm doing something goes like 100 miles an hour. It's like, well, if I get to grow QQQI to like a good position later on, I may not want to have my other covered call fund with the same fund provider. I don't want to have all my money in the, all the eggs in the same basket. So that's why I went into Tap Alpha. I believe that they are doing a great job with kind of similar to NEOS in the way that the yield that they are giving out, it makes sense. The distributions, when you look at their funds, are kind of like consistent every month within like a few, percentage of a cent kind of thing. So that's what I went into TSPY. And actually 3 or 4 days ago, I came to, now again, I have 2 ETF that I'm contributing money to. I want to simplify, starting 2026. I want to go a step further and make it even simpler. I want to concentrate in one ETF, get to my goal, and then go to the next. Not going half on this one, a little bit on that one. So I went and I sold out of my TSPY. And now I'm like 100% besides the BTCI that I hold there in QQQI. I think that I have 920 shares now. I want to get to 1,000 before I go to the TSPY maybe. And that's what the cover call ETF mindset that I have. The BTCI story, I look at BTCI a while back and I think that it was trading like at $63, $64 a share. And I remember, I don't know, not long ago, I was looking at a video and they were talking about Bitcoin and it's like, let me learn a little bit about Bitcoin. To today, I understand Bitcoin a bit, but not enough that I want to consider myself an expert. And that's the only investing, Marco, that I have a little bit of FOMO. I don't want to miss out if this goes to the moon, but I don't want to put enough money that it's going to make me nervous. So when I look into that, BTCI was trading around $47. And it's like, hey, we are in the cycle of Bitcoin being down. So I went ahead and I bought 500 shares, I believe, of BTCI, and I still hold it. And today that we are actually recording this episode, I actually went into the green for the first time. Now with contributions, like total return, I'm up, but actually share appreciation, I actually just went into the green today. For me, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Again, I think that BTCI, the highest that it went, it was like about $68. Now it's just about 47. So I think that when it gets into the 60s, I may reduce that a bit, but I still want to have at least 10 or 15K into that to see what Bitcoin does.
So your dividend income this year is projected to be just under $20,000. So what are your thoughts on that dividend income? And would you increase that dividend income by just buying more of QQQI and just more cover calls, or just leave it how it is with your portfolio?
I think that I'm going to keep buying these funds that I have my mindset into, like the QQQI, the TSPY by Alpha, and then leave the BTCI kind of alone there. Now, I do not want anything to do with any fund that it goes above 15% or so. I do not want to touch it with like a 10-foot pole kind of thing. I kind of went into that just as an experiment, and I know what they can do. And Marco, I know that there is a lot of, now you go into Blossom and into these YouTube channels, and it's like people are divided, kind of cover call ETF in one side, income or whatever they want to call themselves, and then growth over here. And I look back, and I would love to hear your opinion on this later, but I wonder if when the cover call ETF came into the market, now this kind of hot wave that we have, if they would have been kind of a rule, no fund can have more than 15% yield, if a lot of people will still have the same mentality, right? Because I think that people went to see the ULTY, the YMAX, the YMAG, and they saw these big distributions that the NAV was not holding, and now I want money now. That's the other thing that a lot of people in this DNA want to do. I want things now. And what was the best way? Going into these funds. Even when they were selling it to you in a way that, yes, your NAV is going to go down, but your total return is going to be above, so you're going to end up winning. It's like, no, I don't want to be part of that. Do I believe that maybe the NEOS fund and the Top Alpha fund are going to stay here for a long time? Yes. Otherwise, I would have not invested into them. Now, kind of the yield that they are giving out, the strategy that they are implementing, it makes more sense, and it's more straightforward in a way that I can see myself putting a large amount of money into these funds, but I'm happy with that. That's the other thing that you get. And I'm just going to tell you a quick story that it happened on Blossom the other day. I went in there and I said, hey, I bought a little bit of QQQI, like I'm closer to my goal and this and that. And a guy went in and he's like, why will you want to invest into QQQI when you can go into the Qs and invest in the underlying? And again, it's my preference and it's my situation. And I don't know what people think, but I'm 100% sure that these cover call ETF are going to underperform the underlying. They are not going to outperform. So the kind of thing saying, oh, you think that you're going to outperform the Qs by holding the cover call ETF, I'm not saying that, and I will never say that. So let's say, and I'm just kind of put my notes here, like last year, for example, QQQI total return was about 1883% when total return. QQQ was 21%. So 3% different there. But again, I know that, and I'm going into this investing knowing that I'm going to underperform, but I'm happy with that decision. So a lot of growth investors there just think that we actually know, the ones that we invest in this cover call ETF, we actually know that we are underperform the underlying, but that's the choice that we are making.
In your opinion, where do you think is like the motivation for cover call ETF investors to buy these products, like the ones that you have, right? Is it for the monthly income, or sometimes it could be a weekly income? Is it for the higher dividends? Is it to retire early at some point, or something else?
They may be like a mix of things here, but I think that the one that people go in the most is because they see that money coming in, hitting their account weekly or semi-monthly or monthly. And again, it depends on your situation. In my opinion, if I was in my 20s, in my early 30s, that early retirement is still like 15 years away, I would have not put any money into this. I would put it in the underlying because I know that it's going to outperform. So you see now a lot of more younger investors going into this cover call, again, because they see this, like podcasts saying 15,000 a month and this and that. And the other thing that we have to say is like, it is true. Now you can have a smaller portfolio and make kind of around the same money that if you were into like an SCHD or a VYM or that kind of those more ETF. Now, those people that have a smaller portfolio and I'm getting closer to retiring, hey, this is a blessing on the sky. I can go into kind of the funds that I have making 10 to 15% yield, and I can make similar money that before early retirement was so out of range because again, we had those value ETF that they don't give you back the same amount of money. So for those kind of people approaching retirement, I think that that's what, in my opinion, or early retirement, and that's the reason why I invested into them, that makes more sense. For those kind of younger investor, please just, and I always say this is what I would have done. And I'm going to tell you a story about this in a minute here, but kind of look at it as like, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel later on. I don't want to see it right now. And I'm going to be better off going into the underlying of these funds, the S&P, the SCHD, the VGT, stuff like that. And then later on, that's the thing that with investing, you don't have to go one way or the other and you are locked into that. You can go there for 5 years and then start shifting. You can leave those alone and then you don't even have to sell for a profit. Then new money goes into this other strategy. And that's what I've been doing with my taxable account. I kind of make those kind of buy here, sell there. Now that I got locked into my strategy, all new money goes there. I don't sell now to go and jump again from one to the other. So I will say, Marco, those are kind of the mix that we will get. But definitely, I think that the mistakes that a lot of people are making is that they want income today. Even when you don't need it, they want it today. And it's appealing to them. And all these people kind of going and comparing and saying, hey, now you can, even the total return, like look at the total return that you're getting, similar to the underlying. Why would you go the other way when you have guaranteed money coming in every month? And that's what there is a lot of misinformation out there that you kind of have to be aware of where to look for. And what I wanted to say that this is what I will do. Every time that anybody comes to me for any kind of advice, you can come and tell me, hey, what do you think about the car that I'm going to buy? I have never gone and tell you, this is what you should do. I always say, if I was in your shoes, this is what I will do. I had a friend of mine that about a year and a bit ago came to me and we were talking about investing. And now I'm kind of in the group of friends that the investor kind of guy, because none of the other, my friends, they are invested or anything into that. And a friend of mine came to me and he's like, hey, I have been contributing to my 401k for whatever many years. I don't know what I'm invested in or what they are doing there. I don't know how much it grows. Will you mind helping me out with that? That person is in their early 40s. So now we're looking about almost 20 years before they touch this money in retirement. So she went ahead and she opened her account and she was in a target date fund that she was getting about 5% annualized interest rate for whatever many, many years that she have had it. And I went like, okay, now before I'm even going to tell you what I will do, I open my 401k and I share, because if I'm going to kind of give an advice to somebody, it's something that I'm doing for myself. I'm not going to tell you to do something that I'm not doing. So I opened my 401k, I was transparent, and it's like, look what I'm doing. I'm 100% in the S&P 500. Now, so she went, okay, what do you think that I should do? And I went, if I was in your shoes, I will sell out of that, put it all in the S&P 500. That's what I will do. Now you do whatever you want. She sell right away, put it 100% into the S&P. Now I think that she's getting close to 20% annualized returns. And her account at the time was about 250K, getting 4% kind of similar to that. Now that account in a year later is about close to 380K. Again, even there is a lot of people that, again, that they don't know. They think that, hey, I'm just doing the right thing. But even when you're doing the right thing, there may be tweaks that you can do to those investing that is gonna, kind of make it better. And it's one of those. So even when you think that you are investing, then go and seek for advice. Not seek for advice, but go kind of learn a little bit more. And this is somebody that they don't want to do anything with active investing, but they just wanted to see what I was doing and what I will do if I was in her shoes. So I just wanted to share that with you, because again, there is a lot of people that they just go and they are doing the right thing by investing. But hey, kind of take a look at what you're invested in. A lot of these, especially 401ks, as you know, a lot of them, they just roll you into the 401k, put you into a target date fund, even if it makes sense or not. So you still can go there and make changes to that.
Now, what about if you had to start all over again in your early 20s to start investing? How would you invest? And even like, how would you invest for somebody who is super late to investing? Would it still be the cover call funds?
All right. If I was super young, I will go into these growth funds. Like I will still go ETF. I don't want nothing to do with single stocks, just because, again, I want things simple. And you can pick one or two funds. You don't have to have like all this different small cap and mid cap and large cap. Now there are so many ETF out there that you can go like one and forget it. So if I was in my 20s today, Marco, I will put 50% into SCHD, maybe 50% in VGT. I believe that technology is not going to slow down anytime soon. So I will kind of go that route. If you have a 401k, I will do the S&P. That's chances of what I will have there. If I was older, I will still want to put some in the S&P 500. Maybe, as you know, the S&P usually returns a little bit lower than the NASDAQ and this kind of, technology funds and stuff like that. So I will play a little bit more safer in a way. I still put some in the S&P. And now we have this covered call ETF that in my opinion, they are here to stay. The NEOS, the top alpha, these 10 to 15% with an underline of the S&P and the NASDAQ, not like cover call on a single stock. I will not touch that either. So that's what that's what I will do if I were to start all over again.
Now, what about for investors who are super late to investing? Let's say they're in their early 40s, mid 40s, late 40s, early 50s, and they want to start investing.
Well, I'm one of those kind of in the categories that you said. I'm in my kind of I'm 42 years old, and I don't think that if I didn't have the portfolio that I have today, my personal opinion, I will not go all in covered call ETF. I will try to, again, if you start later, you cannot think that you can have early retirement tomorrow. And it's one of those things that is so individualized that, hey, somebody may look at you, Mark, and it's like, hey, you got lucky, or you are where you are because of luck. Hey, there is not luck into what we are doing. We put in the hard work, and we maybe sacrifice stuff and things at some point to get to where we are. So again, if you are later into life, obviously time is not on your side. So I will still go with some into the S&P. I think that until the day I die, I will have some money into the S&P 500. I believe into that. I think that is the simplest one fund, set it and forget it. Again, when you're getting close to retirement, maybe more to this covered call, because they provide you that extra income that you at a smaller portfolio, like I was saying earlier, you get a little bit more. I think that if somebody would have had, again, this is my opinion, very amateur opinion, like I always say, if somebody was giving you $1 million today and you have to pull it into dividends for you to get money, this money is going to be all into income. And you will put $1 million today into SCHD VYM, you will be getting, I think that I was like 38 to 40,000 a year. Now, for you to go and do the same into, for example, QQQI, to get the same 38 or 40K, you only needed to invest about 270K. So you have kind of getting the same money, kind of a third of the amount. And if you go and put $1 million into this kind of safer covered call ETF, the income was like 140K. So even if you get the equivalent of the SCHD or VYM to live off, you still have like another 100K that you can put into the market. So what I wanted to get into this, and again, this is not financial advice, now somebody can get more income with a smaller portfolio, and what I still think into like a safer investing funds like this QQQI, TSPY, and the NEOS and the Top Alpha. Now that I just wanted to make sure that I don't know these people like from these funds. It's just those are the ones that I have seen a lot of videos out there that it makes sense. And when you look at them, the distributions are super steady and super kind of, it doesn't vary like from months to months to, again, we have been in the uptrend if you take away the tariff in April. But when I'm referring to these funds, those are the ones that I like and the ones that I can see myself invested in.
Now, walk me through your retirement goals. What age do you plan on retiring? Do you have a specific portfolio value amount? Do you have a specific amount of dividends that you want to earn per year? And I'll throw it back to you.
That's a good question. That's a really good question, Marcus. So where do I plan to retire? That I do not have like a set day there. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I like what I'm doing today. There are a lot of people out there that they are going to work every week, kind of hating their job. They cannot stand their bosses. And those are the ones that if I will be in that boat today, I can pinpoint a date that I'm going to retire. So when it comes to that, I don't know when that's going to happen. Again, super happy with what I do and the environment that I'm kind of, when it comes to work that I'm in. I think that my mentality now is my taxable account and cover call ETF. I want to get QQQI to 1,000 shares at the current distribution. That's going to be paying out just over $600 a month. And then I'm going to go to probably the TSPY, I will say, and then start building that one out. So whatever I get, whenever I retire early and I get to those accounts, I'll be happy. I don't have like a fair amount. And again, it's one of those things that everybody's situation is different. Like my wife working for the company that she does, when she retired from that company, she will have a pension plan. So there is some money there that we don't have to worry about, hey, I need to get this from my portfolio every month. So again, whenever you go and see somebody's portfolio, take a minute before you go in and start hating comments and putting this and saying that. So that's what I will say there is definitely that I'm going to retire early. Unfortunately, I don't know when that's going to be. But when it comes to distributions, I'm still going to be playing with this cover call ETF, 10 to 15 yield, and keep putting it there. The other thing that I can, like I said, I'm not attached to these funds. And that's why you see, Marcos, I think that like a lot of investors these days, they get so, it's like they get attached to something and it's their way or the highway. It is usually either cover call ETF or the SCHD is the one that works and nothing else works when it comes to value and dividends. But you don't have to be attached to that. Like I can tell you, if tomorrow we have a 20% upside down in the market, I can go into my savings account and see myself putting a lot of money into VGT. I believe in technology. It's not that I'm married to this cover call ETF. You know what I mean? Like it may be a point that I will go in, and that's what happens. I remember back in April, whenever the tariff happened, when I look back at my 2025 contributions, the 3 months that I got myself investing the most, I believe that it was April, November, and December that we had kind of like a down market. And that's the issue that I have now. I want to buy more. Like I love red days. I don't really care about green days these days because I'm not living for my portfolio yet. And it's one of those things that is like a sour, sweet thing. You want your portfolio value to go up. But I want to buy things when they are on sale. So for me to, for example, going back to holding SCHD because it kind of provides a safety in my portfolio, I don't need it. Because again, if we get something like we had when COVID, that everything was like, man, that's the one thing that I regret the most, not being an investor when we were in the COVID kind of season, that everything was so discounted, right? So for me, I want to buy. That's the issue that, like I said, that I have today. I want to put more money into the market, and I have this amount that I'm set to invest. And I remember in April, I came to my wife's office, and it's like, hey, I think that we got to whatever we wanted to invest this month, but I'm going to put more money into. Just kind of to tell you that, hey, buy things don't get afraid when you see things in the red. Think about when you go to the grocery store and you see this big juicy steak that it was $40 and now it's $20, you will gravitate more to that. So that's what I will say. So kind of circling back to your question, if we have like whatever pull back in the market, whenever that happens, I can see myself going and loading the boat in those growth ETF.
Do you feel like you could sleep way better at night because you have the cover call ETFs paying you dividend income, you have the S&P 500, and you have like a portfolio that has basically both growth plus income instead of going just all into like, let's say VOO?
100% that I sleep like a baby at night when it comes to today, the way that I kind of have my investing profile and mindset, I sleep like a baby at night. Again, I don't believe in going all into anything when it comes to investing. So for me, I'm kind of getting, like, again, when you look at my portfolio, you are looking about 75% into like growth funds and the S&P. So again, it's like, that's what I will gravitate more to. Like, again, I want to grow my portfolio as much that I can, but that 10% that is going into the cover call ETF, again, is just providing a safety net for me if I need that tomorrow. And in the meanwhile, I'm still getting kind of that total total percentage, whatever the underlying is given back plus the distributions, right? So like I said, QQQI last year, total return was about 18%. So because I reinvested every dollar that I got from there, I kind of got that return back. So you don't start seeing that big difference until you start pulling money out of your portfolio to kind of say, hey, now obviously the total return went lower because I took money out. So I think that strategy works for me. It makes sense for me. It may not make sense for a lot of people, but for me it does. And I'm just going to keep doing that. Especially when I still have a lot of time. So now the wanting to retire early is something that I have been working towards. It's nothing that I just stumble into my portfolio today and that's what I want to retire in maybe 5 years or 6 years, right? So again, it's just a mindset that I have had and that's the way that I now, from now on, will want to keep investing. And when you look, for example, at my Roth IRA, it's like, hey, I have like whatever, almost 20 years before I can get that money out. Why am I gonna now put that money, for example, into covered call ETF that I know that I'm gonna underperform the underlying? And that, I think that, Marco, that's another area that a lot of people are kind of playing it a little bit too safe. I will say, hey, just at least me, if I were to do it all over again, like I explained earlier, I will still gravitate more to those kind of growth funds and technology. We know that it's big now. There is a lot of people talking about this big bubble that we had with tech and AI and all that. But when you look at any company that is doing all this big move in technology, every other sector is going to benefit from this. Like when you go to healthcare, now all this technology that we have today is being implemented into that. Or when you go to utilities or anything like that. So I will say I will still try to play more towards the growth and take a little bit more chances. Now, with that being said, Marco, I just wanted to add something that I kind of explain to people. There is a lot of people that go, I believe that risk is one thing and volatility is something else. So a lot of people go, hey, play it safe, go into these value funds for whatever reasons that it may not be beneficial to you. But the other thing is, like, if you look, for example, I saw a video the other day that the guy was talking about this kind of growth fund, the QQQM, the SCHD, the VGT, and it's like, those are like a little bit more high risk. And it's like, if you look at a chart of VGT and these funds over the year, it goes up. So how can you tell me that we have this many years of history and those are risky? Now, are they more volatile? Yes. If you look at VGT in like a period of time of a month, it's like one of those cardiac thing that it goes up and down. But again, I'm looking at the big picture. I'm not investing because I want returns next week or next month. I want looking at the big picture. So just kind of look back and it's like kind of differentiate those things, volatility with risk. Now, all that money that I lost into those kind of penny stocks and all that kind of things that I didn't know, yeah, those were risk investing. Or maybe for someone, Bitcoin may be risky, right? So we don't know. So I just wanted to kind of bring this up, kind of talking about volatility and risk in a portfolio.
Now, tell me about how your financial habits have changed since bankruptcy. Do you still avoid, credit card debt? Is it living below your means? Is it picking a good spouse? Because it sounds like your spouse is financially savvy and is also investing as well. Or is this something else? Because you also did get a sweet new Mercedes that you posted on Blossom. So congrats on that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm going to give you a couple of good stories into that. And I say that I created these habits again because I was into that kind of hole when I did the bankruptcy. And a lot of that, I have never been somebody that kind of goes and buy like brand stuff and that will make me happy. Never did, never now. It was a lot of kind of different bad money decisions that got me to the bankruptcy. But it was never because I went to the mall to buy like Gucci or Prada or Givenchy stuff. That's not the point. And it's not the point today. So the habits, again, I didn't want to be broke. I didn't want to see my money coming in and it's like, now it's going to Visa, now it's going to MasterCard. And when I lay in bed at night, it's like, man, this doesn't make sense. Like a lot of this stuff didn't make me happy when I spend this money. So money habit, yes. The spouse that you have next to you, and if they have good money habits, definitely. It's like kind of you want to go into the shade of a good tree, not a bad tree kind of thing. So when it comes to that, that have helped a lot. And a lot of things that finances as a whole, it has a very simple recipe, Marco, for me, right? And when you look at it, all that you need to do is spend less than what you make. Super simple. You don't need to go to MIT to get a degree on finances or investing or whatever for you to know that. But for some reason, it's so hard to put it into practice for most people, including myself. The other thing is like, again, we want things today. We don't want things 5 years. A lot of people, we don't go about planning and setting those goals that when I'm at this level is that I'm going to be able to reach certain kind of spending things, habits or whatever I want to do. So just to tell you a story, whenever we sold our house in Canada, our good friends, they were living in the Miami area, and that's where we wanted to be. We wanted to be closer to them. Now, if we would have come here to Miami, where I live now, and we would have bought a house here, we would have had to go into the mortgage. I didn't want to go into a mortgage. I knew that at some point I may end up here, but I knew that required time. So what did we do? We moved to Tampa. We paid cash for a house, no mortgage. I improved that house, did a lot of renovations. Eventually, we were able to sell it and come to this area and still have no mortgage. So it's one of those things that, man, you need to just delay things. Don't think that everything have to happen today. The other thing the one thing with spending money, since I got to Canada in 2005, I love cars, man. Like I change more cars than anybody in this world. And not because I wanted to have this kind of like European or flashy cars. It's just that I got sick of the Kia and now I went into the Toyota and then I went into a Lexus. It was nothing crazy money, but I would get sick of them. In Canada, you will pay 13% taxes on whatever you buy. So imagine every time that you're getting in and out of a car, it costs you minimum 13% of that cost. And then the depreciation value that you get and all that stuff. So when we moved to the US, we were able to buy a brand new car, pay cash for it, change it later for the truck, still have no car payment. But I wanted a car. Like it's like not long ago before I bought the car that I have now, I was sitting with my wife and it's like, if somebody were to tell me, hey, you have X amount of days and then that you have left in this life, is there something that I will want to change? And I told my wife, the car that I drive. Just because everything else I'm happy for. Like we go on vacation a couple of times a year. I go shopping at Ross, TJ Maxx. Like I'm a we live way beyond our means and I'm happy with it. It's not that I need these flashy things, but somehow I like cars. So again, I kind of have this car for a while and it got time. I went to a calculator and it's like, hey, what will happen if I were to keep investing now? The money, first of all, if I just leave the money that I have invested 15 years from now, how much will I have? At a kind of like an 8% return. And that kind of gave me, hey, you're going to be okay. Now, the next tier is like, we just get the match from the 401k that we put money into, then the number got higher. Now, what if we just keep investing the way that we do for another 10 years? And it's like, we are going to be okay. I can now go and afford to have that kind of bigger, nicer car that before I was just delaying because it was not the right time. I wanted to prioritize putting money into our retirement accounts. The 529, I have 2 kids and I put money into their educational accounts. So that for me is more a priority than to have the car that I drive now. So I said there, my wife, long story short, my wife went with her mom and my daughter to Paris for a trip. And I went, got a car. She knew that I was kind of looking for cars. And that's how I got to buy that car. But even when I knew that I could afford that car, what did I do? I went and I bought a 1-year-old car that already somebody took the hit on that kind of depreciation the first year that any brand new vehicle will have. And I still think that I made a good deal. For me, I didn't go and buy the next shiny thing that I saw out there. So I still kind of play with my mentality. Always try to get a deal. and whatever makes you happy, just go towards and kind of work towards those goals. But the most important part of all this, there is a time and place for everything. If you want to get there too early, again, going back to at the beginning of our talk, that advice that Andy gave me is like a pyramid that you need to go slowly and put kind of a brick at a time. If you want to get all the way to the top too quick, you're just going to fall all the way back. So yeah, that's how I got to those kind of money habits, living if you look, something that I just want to add, and again, it goes to investing. There is usually two spectrums. There's two sides of every story, right? You may look, if I will open my financials to you, somebody may look at them and it's like, dude, with the money that is coming in, what you should have is a nicer car, a bigger house, and more branded stuff. And somebody else may look at that kind of stuff and say, dude, there is so much more that you can invest in. But again, for me, it works out like I like the balance. We like to go and eat out. We like to go on vacations, but we can afford that now. At some point, we couldn't do that. So now our vacations are a little bit nicer than they were before, or maybe the things that, places that we go or whatever, but it's all that, like, whatever makes sense to you. Is your money kind of find the balance, man, for kind of whatever makes sense to you instead of what other people think. Because really, it's your money and it's not anybody else's.
For those who might be inspired from your story and just watching what you've been saying in this video, what are 3 tips for success for investing that you have done and personally have applied that has done well for you that you wish that they could do on their investing journey?
The first one will say, start today. Like, start today. Just go out there and just put whatever you have. You don't have to be intimidated to go out and look at somebody's portfolio and they show that they are having a lot of money, and for you to think, I can never reach that point. You will if you put your mind to it. So the one thing that I will say, just kind of start early as you can. That's number one. The second one, it will be kind of try to minimize the mistakes that a lot of us have made. And there is so much good information out there. And, channels like yours, like whenever I was watching the Money Guys, there is a lot of good information out there that it will kind of take away all those mistakes. So all those mistakes that I made that cost me money, now you don't have, that younger me doesn't have to make it. That's the second thing that I will say. And the third thing, it will be stay in your lane. Kind of don't just ignore the noise that is out there. In my opinion, I'm not here to win the award of the best investor. I just want to invest into whatever makes sense to me and just ignore the noise. Like I said, now you can come to me and say, hey, there is this fund paying guaranteed without 100% of their distribution back, and I'm not interested into that. So that noise, I just put it aside and I just keep going. So I will say those 3 things, Marco, and also believe that, yes, it works. Investing works. And if it's not, and even for those that do not believe, go to your parents or your sister or your spouse, and it's like, open an account, put $5 there, because I want to prove myself that this actually works and what these people are saying is true, and just forget it and leave it there and put it aside. Now, something that I just want to mention, Marco, I cannot read a book if my life depends on it. I'm not a reader. I came into a podcast the other day, and this is the guy who wrote one of the books that a lot of investors talks about, and is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And one of the things, this is a guy that talks about money habits and investing and all of that. When they asking about his portfolio, I believe that 80% of his portfolio is in VTI, like a really broad ETF, and then into the company that he owns or whatever, he has like shares into those companies. And something that kind of caught my attention there, I think he quotes something like, I want to get average returns in an above average period of time. Kind of saying, even getting the S&P 500 returns in a longer time in a period of time, you are going to be ahead of a lot of people that think that they are from MIT going into all this crazy stuff. So that kind of caught my attention. And every time that I have been tempted to make a change, or I hear anybody with a new fund, I go back to that mentality. Even average returns, you can build real wealth from that. So just to kind of tell you like a quick story, and it's probably one of the, being a dad, I have like an 11-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. And the proudest time that I had, one of those proud moments, obviously I talk about a lot of investing with, my friends and my wife and stuff like that. Not long ago, my daughter came to me and said, Daddy, I want to invest. And I went like, really? And I was at the kitchen, talking with my wife and all that. And it's like, okay, let me leave it alone to see if she comes back. I just want to see if this is something that is now, or 2 days later, she comes to me and is like, hey, remember that I told you that I wanted to invest? I'm ready. I have money that I want to invest. Marco, I went and sat with her on the couch, start talking and give her kind of how the market works and invest in kind of a one-on-one invest in how you should look like, ETF are a basket of stocks compared to putting all of your money into one company and this and that. And she goes, okay, I have $200 that I wanted to invest in. And I went, okay, why don't we do this? We're going to do a deal. Whatever money you give me, I'm going to match it. Kind of like a 401k. I'm going to be your 401k provider now. And the next morning, Marcus, she comes to me with $300. She goes, hey, I'm going to put another $100. So I went there. I opened a custodial account for both of my kids. Obviously, my son was in the background and he's like, hey, do you want to invest? Yeah, I'm going to do the same as my sister. So he also gave me $45. I put another 45. So now both of my kids, they have a custodial account. That this was in January when this happens. February 1st, I went to them and say, hey, it's the beginning of the new month. Do you have any money? Now they came and gave me 25 or $30 each, whatever. I match it and money went in there. So I want them to see from the very beginning, like super early, that look what time is going to do to that account. And I just put it in an ETF that they can invest forever. In my opinion, and it's like, just leave it alone. I remember looking at my daughter and say, the one advice that I want to give you, leave it alone. Do not touch this, even if your life depends on it. So again, super proud of my kids. Just again, going back to who do you socialize with? Who are the people that are next to you? And if you kind of have like a good circle of people are next to you, they have kind of the same mentality, that's what you're going to be successful, right? But we're becoming friends and all that you do is like do drugs and stuff like, man, I have no interest to being next to somebody like that, right? So again, going back to, that's what she hears all the time. And even when we think that they are not paying attention, they do. Like again, at 12 years old coming and telling me, hey, I want to invest. So yeah, super proud moment there as a dad, and happy to get my kids that early into investing.
If you guys like this video, please give it a like because this cute puppy did. And don't forget to check out our last video right here on your screen. And once again, this video is not financial advice. It is for educational and informational purposes only. We are not financial advisors. Please, please, please do your own research.